Okay, so this video will be creating material that we can export, so PBR materials from Blender and bring them into Ventuz. And what we'll do is use a tool called Simple Bake to help us with this process. You can find this in the Blender market. I'll place the link down below if you want it. I got it for $12 right now. It's really worth it. It's actually worth it if you're using Blender anyway. And it helps you, export your PBR materials, bakes them down, simplifies the whole process for you. So let's jump into Blender and let's make a quick object and apply material to it, and then we'll bake it, bring it into Ventuz. You'll see in a second. So I'll just delete everything in the scene, empty scene, add a new mesh, got the monkey head. Okay, Susan the monkey head. And we're going to apply a modifier, subdivision 2, apply, shade it smooth. So this is not really a Blender tutorial, it's just an overview of the plugin itself. And so the plugin you'll find as well, gosh, we'll go back to it once I'll create the material, but on the render properties here, when you install it, it appears up in your render properties and you scroll down and here you get a simple bake, and then you'll have all the settings that we're going to tweak in a second. For now, let's create a material that we want to apply and then bake out. So new material, let's go into shading mode, okay. And let's bump up that metallic look, add the base color, so it's gold, but it's not, we're not doing anything fancy, it's a really short tutorial. So I'm going to add UV, the mapping, and then the vector, and I'm going to say I need noise texture, I need a color ramp, the vector goes in there, and then the factor goes into factor, and the color ramp will go into a bump map. And that feeds into, let's move this into the height, and the normal map goes into normal map. So say when you go, for example, when you're going to export, say you wanted to export that model, and normally you'd say have your texture feeds into your bump map, into your normal map, or a bump, and then that's your normal map. If you have your standard PBR images that you download, and then your base color would be the diffuse. But say you've created your own one, so we'll create our own bump map. So I'll just scale this up and make this detailed, and bring this detail strength down. So we've got this kind of one that we've created inside using the the textures here, and just try to get rid of that seam. There you go. So you've got this, and you want to bake this. So this is where you would say a plugin like this would come in handy, because if I try to export this, none of this information will go across into another application. So you do need to bake them down to textures, and the plugin is great for doing this. I'm just going to do some tweaks. So let's just do another channel like the roughness, so we have more than one map, because right now it's just a normal map. And I'll just duplicate these two, for example. Duplicate that, and I'll pipe vector in. Actually, keep the same noise channel, just use that and just have a different ramp for the roughness. Then you can change this. Now we can have different parts of glossy, and got some parts of rough. Then you can change this to like a gray. Yeah. Cool. So I'm gonna leave it like that. Or maybe put this in, make it a bit more patchy. But yeah, I could play around with this all day, but we want to keep it nice and short. There you go. So we've got a bit of variation, we've got some nice materials, and you understand. So you want to bake this out. So go to your I'm just going back to my layout scene, so you can see it's here. That's the material, and we want to bake this. So I go to my plugin, so the render settings properties where the plugin sit in. Go to diffuse, I want to export that. We want to export the metalness, and export the roughness, the normal. Maybe we want to export the specular. If we had an emission, like some say emission shaders on there or something, say this was glowing red or something, you might want to bake that. You could bake that channel out, which is brilliant. What you do need to do is make sure when you save the project, that's where wherever you save the project is where the bake will be created, so it will go to the same directory. So I've done an earlier test and this is it here, so I'll just overwrite this existing Susan monkey head thing. Anyway, so I'm going to say you can choose custom resolution, so you could say 1024 by 1024 or 2K or 4K. And remember, don't expect if you bake your textures at 2K that you could zoom in this close and get this amount of detail when you're this close to it. Once you bake the texture, it's just a 2K texture. You're not gonna get. So if you want it to say zoom in like this, for example, maybe you want to go for 4K or 6K, depending on how close you get into the object. But yeah, just remember, keep in mind, it's the texture once you baked it down. So what I'm going to do is say export bakes. You can choose the folder, so you can say suits, and then it will create that folder with the bakes in there. PNG. You want to go into here, you can say device, CPU, GPU. I'll just leave it on CPU, works pretty good, it's not too long. Make sure you check here, copy objects and apply bake. So you keep your original, and then it will have a baked version of it, and it will apply the materials for you, and you'll see that in a second. And that's all it is, really. So once you're happy with the settings, hit bake, give it a few seconds. Might be folder, go to desktop, and I'm gonna go to my stuff folder, and you can see here already it's already done. So we have the textures. If I double click them, there's the base color. We just applied the simple diffuse color to it. There's our metalness, there's our normal matte, here's our rough matte, and here's our specular. Yeah, it's really cool. And you can see, if I zoom in, it looks kind of soft because this is the baked one, but it's really hard to tell. So here you can see this is it says as well Susan baked, and then that's the original. So if I click the original one and we move these side by side, so this is the baked and this is the non-baked. It's really hard to tell the difference, right? It's brilliant. So it's a great tool. If you go to shading now, and you can see the difference here as well in the shading. So now you have the textures, the normal, and each file, each one's already linked up for you. So next we just have to export. Okay, so what we're going to do to export it, so actually what I'm going to do is just delete this original one, because we don't need it. We got it here anyway, but just for this purpose anyway. I don't recommend deleting your original anyway. Keep your original, but for this I'm just going to have the baked version. Okay, so it's just the baked version now. I'm going to go file, export, and I'm going to choose GLTF because we know in Ventuz it works. You just drag it in and it will import it in with all the materials linked. I'm going to export, There we go. I didn't change no settings in there. It shows just all the default settings. As you can see, you got a little square. So it's just thinking, trying to export that scene or object, should I say. Shouldn't take long. If I go to the folder now, you'll see there's the file, and it's done. If I double click, I can view it in my 3D viewer. It's brilliant. So if you want to preview it before, we can see that seam slightly, but that's just because the way the UV mapping is on the model, where the seam is placed. But yeah, so you can see that how you can export those materials, and you can preview it. If you don't like it, go back and change it. You can see experiment. You know, the 3D viewer is really good. Saves you that extra step of going, you know, before you go to the next step into your 3D software. Anyway, I'm gonna pause this and open up Ventuz, so bear with me. Okay, so I'll just, to speed up things and try to make the videos a little bit quicker, I'll get rid of all the, you know, the loading time in the video clips. So what we're gonna do is go to our folder. I'll go back to my folder where I saved it. I scroll down to my stuff folder, we've got everything, and I'm going to grab the file, drag it into my scene, and there it is. It's brilliant. You got the material, you can see the normal maps, the roughness. It's already comped for you for the masks and the base color, and it knows how to do it. It's really good. If I scale it up, right now it will look weird because of the lighting. There's no lighting in the scene. I'm gonna just clean up this little tree, so get rid of these extra axes. There we go. So we've got just the head. So quick way. I'm not gonna build a big scene or try to fix everything. What I'm gonna do is go to color materials, go to F1, hit F1 over the node skybox, and I'll borrow this interactive example of the image-based lighting. You can do F1 on every node and get an example scene, which is a cool tip anyway. F1, if you didn't know that, you get an example scene. I'm just going to borrow this light box. So I'll just copy this light box, of course, and it's already got a light box in there, and just place it in front. Bam, and you can see it's already lighting our model up. If I click on here, my 3D layer route, and change the engine to high dynamic, now you can see it affects it more, and then you can play around with the exposure and all sorts. But yeah, I'm not going to go too much into that, but you can see we've got our model in here for the baked textures. So you can still go in and tweak these. So if you want to tweak the roughness or the change the base color, maybe you want to replace that base color, you can still do that, which is brilliant. So, you know, I can say maybe I don't want the bump, or I want the bump, you know, I want to reduce it. So you still have control over these maps, which is fantastic. And you know, you can change the roughness here. Yeah, it's fantastic. Add some color in there, whatever you want. Tweak all the parameters yourself. But yeah, you can play around with that. I mean, we can do is quickly let me just load in another texture in here. I'll just go to my images folder. We should just bring in another environment or something. And you can see already it looks a little bit better because that sun is quite powerful, skyboxing. But there you go. Enjoy. I hope it's just useful. There's a link below if you want to check that link out for that plugin. Remember the environments affects the lighting, so just because it might look different here in Ventuz or this, but it's just because it's using a different environment map. So it's just the lighting, and that applies to everything. I guess whatever you do, you just got to consider that. I think you can get, if you say you wanted those Blender files. I believe they're in a C drive. Is it C drive? Program files. What's program files? Program files, Blender, Foundation. You enter the version, then the folder, and then the data files, and then under Studio Lights, and then you have World. Those are the files here. So if you did say you wanted to print those in, you know, you can convert these EXRs into something Ventuz can understand. We'll try it. But yeah, it's brilliant. Works well. You know, find the lighting and all sorts. But yeah, change the specular color there. Blue, green, whatever you want. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully this was a useful video, so you don't need any fancy, you know, subscriptions to like Substance Painter or whatever. You can do it all in, you know, you can do Blender, free software, and then bring it into Ventuz, improve it. Anyway, enjoy your day, evening, night, morning, wherever you are. Bye bye.